Okay, so now we are going to make some visualizations that we can share to better display our results and show people what's going on. We're actually not going to make any maps today. Now, you notice BC is huge, population's pretty concentrated in a few small areas, but you try and show the full province at once, most of the population is going to be blocked out. It's not an easy place to visualize. So just because you're doing GIS doesn't mean you always need to make a map. Maybe charts are better. So first things first, let's use a suitable color scheme. So go to symbology, you can define your colors as you want. If you click on these boxes, I think you got to right click, yep, this comes up. If you click color properties, you can explicitly specify your color using a couple different methods. You can drag on the slider and pick your own, all sorts of stuff. Or you can specify this hex code. So what I like to do, and I mentioned this in lecture, it's important to ensure that your color schemes are accessible. And one of the things you have to consider is making sure that things are accessible to colorblind individuals. You can use Color Brewer as a resource if you want. And so if you select qualitative, you can choose the number of classes. So it actually doesn't have a choice for 2 classes. So I can kind of just pick from here, but you're going to be working with 4. So make sure you select that. Then you can use it as a guide, and you can just copy these colors from here directly if you want to work with that. Or if you want a little more leeway, because this is just a guide for general, not saying you have to stick with them exactly. It's more just saying make sure to avoid using certain color combinations. You can also just Google the word color picker and it'll bring this thing up where you can pick colors of your own if you want. You drag this anywhere. They give you a hex code that you can then copy and paste in here. I think you need to get rid of the hashtag in front of it. You can change the color for that class. And let's do this one with a blue, because remember the issue is red-green color blindness. You want to avoid using the colors red and green for things people have to differentiate between. So click OK. You got your color scheme sorted out. Now we've got a couple other things that we need to do to make this plot better. Now, if you did your classification like me, where you just used letters, you might want to change that. You want things to be as explanatory as possible, as quickly and easily as possible, right? So maybe having R and U, especially if you got 4 classes, isn't the easiest thing to distinguish. So you could open the attribute table if you wanted to. And you could say, select all the areas where it's equal to, and it'll just give you the list here. And you can do that, and you can click apply. If you click apply, it leaves this open, so you don't have to reopen it every time. And then you could just click calculate field, and it's going to change only the ones you've selected. So if you just type rural here, remember to do it in quotes, RAL. Then click apply. Leave that one open as well. You'll notice it changes all the rural ones, R to rural. Now you can repeat for the urban, click apply, and click and type in urban. Again, yours will differ slightly because you're using different classifications, but it's quick and easy enough to change all 4 of them. And then if you close this, you'll notice the chart updates. Now notice the symbology went away, so maybe I should have done this first. Change this. And then just go back and it should refresh. You can go back to urban rural, delete this, and then change these color properties back to what I had. All right. So got a color scheme defined, and I've got the axis labels looking a bit better. If you go to chart properties, and you can always expand this if you need a bit more space to see what you're working with. We don't really need much of the map because we're not actually mapping anything. So it could be easier to make things bigger. So we go to chart properties, it's got some other options, right? So we've defined our chart here. If you go to axes, maybe we want better numbers on these axes, right? So we could change this, start at the bottom at 0. Maybe we want the top to go to, say, 35. It's easy enough to do that. Then we can see the full bounds where the ranges are. It makes it easier to interpret things a little bit. Again, these options are sort of up to you in terms of how you approach it, but you do want to make things useful. So you can look at other things. There's other options. Lots of things you can do with these charts. But one thing that's important to do is give your charts descriptive titles and axis labels. A bare minimum would be to remove the underscores so that it's a little easier to interpret. You probably want to put the units in for this. So you would say percent of income on food. And maybe since we've already added the rural and urban labels here, we don't need to have an actual title here. So given that you're going to be, or you can just uncheck this button and it should go away. Yeah. And you want to do the same thing for your actual title, give it something more descriptive. Now, given that you're going to be displaying 4 things across here, you might find that using the full descriptor, large urban population center, makes things a little too clunky and doesn't fit. You could use large urban, small urban, medium urban. Some sort of abbreviated like simplification or shortening is fine, as long as it's something that your not map reader in this case, but chart reader can interpret. Right. So again, you're going to want to change your title and make it something more attractive. You're also going to want to do the same for your other plot. And then it's easy enough to just export these. You can just export it as a graphic. And so you want to export it as a PNG or a JPG. SVG is a type of vector graphic that is good for editing down the line, but we don't need to worry about that. So just call this one whatever you want, your box plot. So this would be module 4 box plot. Right. So you make a box plot, you make a bar chart, and then that's that.